it comes to horror movies, we all have our preferences in terms of style and subgenre. Some of us may favor a nice haunted house, while others may be looking for a creepy found footage piece or even the occasional possession situation. In any case, you may find a taste of what you're looking for in the subject of today's episode, where we take a retrospective look at a fun horror film with more punch packed into it than you may have expected. A movie that twists and ties different types of spooky into a small and intimate story about a struggling writer who may have just uncovered the ugly truth behind his small town's murderous history, and how that may be connected to deaths all over the country. You might say that today we're in for something sinister. Okay, moving on.
I just thought that
Are you kidding me?
Sinister is the 2012 horror hit that director Scott Derrickson and writer Robert Cargill conceived of after being terrified by another supernatural horror film, The Ring. The duo took individually scary elements like the idea of the boogeyman, snuff films, and demon possession, and blended them into a mix that serves this incredibly entertaining story. With a small budget of just $3 million, I think Derrickson built out a world that feels rich with dark history while also remaining small in scope and only really taking place in a handful of locations. The movie follows Ellison Oswalt, which is the most movie name I've ever heard.
Say you're not a fan.
No.
And he's played expertly by the always reliable Ethan Hawke. Hawke is a hell of an actor with an interesting knack for picking his projects. And of course, he is no stranger to horror, tackling projects like The Purge, Daybreakers, Taking Lives, and of course, who could forget his haunting performance as the Grabber in 2021's Black Phone.
No one can hear anything down here. I soundproofed it myself. So shout if you like, you won't bother anyone.
But he's also a very versatile actor with range that makes him the perfect leading man in almost any scenario. And I'm happy to report that Hawke's performance as Ellison is no exception. He's got such a way about him that this disturbing film still makes me want to get into my softest cardigan and sip on whiskey all day.
Turn down for what?
Just me? Okay. So, Ellison is a true crime author who seems to have passed his prime in terms of quality and book sales. Eager to restore his former glory, Ellison and his family move into a house in small-town Pennsylvania. But what his family doesn't know is that Ellison moved them into that house because of the mysterious deaths of the family that previously lived there.
We didn't move in a few houses down from a crime scene again, did we?
This seems like a win for Ellison because, of course, he's literally living in the inspiration for his big comeback book, but he's definitely gonna regret it. When Ellison finds a film projector and a stash of home movies in the attic, he slowly unravels a dark truth. The deaths of the families are not only all on tape, but they all also have the same frightening figure lurking in the shadows. Now, rather than doing what I would do and running for the hills, our guy decides to cross-reference the creepy man in the videos with a clip from the news which showed a violent murder being committed by a child. And you guessed it, the creepy man was also in that clip. This sends Ellison on a hunt for the truth as he discovers that there are countless occurrences of children murdering their families in violent ways and videotaping it every time.
Holy shit.
Now, as for the man in the videos, let's talk about what we're dealing with here. It's revealed about midway through the movie that the symbol and face that Ellison is seeing in the tapes is an ancient god known as Bagul. And what's his deal? Well, thank you for asking. He's known for violently killing entire families of people and selecting one of their children to take with him so he can slowly feed on their soul. Now, when it comes to the reputation of this monster, I really can dig it, but I must say, I've never been a huge fan of the character design of this guy.
We get it, man. You're fucking edgy and cool, yeah.
I know some folks really like the imagery of this dude hiding in the shadows, and I admit it's definitely spooky, but to me, the movie delivers such an interesting lore and backstory for him that, to me, the look of him is just a bit of a letdown. I don't mind the Slipknot-looking face and hair, but when you pair that with this gothic-like suit, he ends up looking more like a cosplay character than a horror icon. Now, don't let me be the only voice on this. Please comment your thoughts below on the villain design of this movie. Now, while I got my thoughts on Bagul out of the way, the ghosts of the children in this movie are on the other side of the spectrum for me, and I think they look pretty good. I'm a big believer in less is more when you're not working with top-notch practical effects, and the designs of these little ghosts is simple yet memorable. Like, this frame right here speaks to me.
Supernatural, the metaphysical, the paranormal, that type of stuff.
Right.
And speaking of the kids, Ellison can't see them, but he notices things going thump in the night, and then it's revealed that his kids definitely can see them. And of course, this is a horror mystery, so we need to have some kids making creepy drawings right about here. Yeah, there we go. Things get increasingly spookier, and it takes Ellison coming face to face with Bagul to finally decide to walk away and move back to his old home. But will that save them? No. See, the plot, it thickens.
Oh, you're freaking me out here.
Get the kids. Pack the car. We have to leave.
See, it's learned that the murders in the films came with extended cuts. These new films show more murders that are also connected. They all took place in families that previously lived in the crime scene houses. Basically, it's too late and no one is safe. I think this is clever in that it allows us to be subverted in thinking that the family may be able to escape, but I also have to say that the cops in this movie really suck at their job. Like, Hawke is the only reason why anyone else even bothered to look further into this stuff. These cases had been cold already for years. And hands down, one of the standouts of Sinister is James Ransone as the deputy. This dude has been in some awesome horror movies, including both Sinister movies, and he is so funny and a much needed refreshing comedic air to this entire movie.
Scorpions have feet, but you wouldn't hear them like you would squirrels.
Well,
So it all culminates in what I would say is one of the most f***ed up movie endings at the time this movie was released. Of course, these days we expect the dark ending. We expect filmmakers to shock us, or at least try to. But when I first saw this movie in 2012, I was genuinely left with a pit in my stomach for hours afterwards. While Ellison is trying to figure out how to save his family, he notices a strange looking liquid at the bottom of his glass. And then...
I like that you made the movies longer. They're better this way.
This final scene is a lot. Ellison's desire to be famous again, his obsession with the glory days, his selfishness, it was all his ultimate undoing.
Don't worry, Daddy. I'll make you famous again.
We don't see the person we've followed throughout the entire movie learn from their mistakes and then fix things. No. Instead, we see his daughter brutally murder the entire family with an axe before being taken into the film herself as Bagul's new slave. It is very sinister.
Something like this? You can never explain something like this.
Overall, this movie delivers and still gives the chills up my spine each time I decide to watch it. It's kind of one of those movies that always felt like it came out either a year too early or a year too late, in that it sort of feels like a blend of the tropey mid-2000s movies that we used to get and the more recent bleak and ultra-shocking stuff that we're getting nowadays. The film, of course, spawned a later sequel appropriately titled Sinister 2, which took the same basic concept and told a new story. I also really enjoy the sequel, and I maybe even like it more than this one. Which one do you like more? Comment below. I gotta really give it up for the cinematography of this movie as well. Every single shot looks really, really good, and it definitely does a good job of keeping it interesting with the editing. The box office results for Sinister were incredible, with the movie grossing nearly $90 million on just a $3 million budget. And the critical response was also positive, with Roger Ebert calling it, quote, an undeniably scary movie, and praising Hawke's captivating performance. Personally, I think this movie mostly holds up, and while it's not my favorite horror film and it's far from a masterpiece, Sinister is a fun and creepy ride that is sure to make your spooky season a hell of a lot spookier.
I don't believe in any, stuff.